I'm Scott's older brother, and I can fairly confidently say that out of all the people here, I think I've been around Scott the longest. Mostly because we shared a bedroom at home until I moved up from college. So as two middle sons in the family, we were sandwiched between two daughters, and we always were the ones sharing the bedroom growing up. Not only that, we shared a bunk bed. And so, you may notice Scott and I are like on the taller side. So we're just a couple 6'2" high schoolers sharing a bunk bed, as middle children do. We knew our goals in the family, we didn't complain. We just kind of like stuck with it. Thankfully, Scott's been the best bunk bed bud for the first 16 years of my life. Sorry, Andrew. Men's retreat last year was good. Like, we just can't beat Scott. Maybe next year. Growing up, our bedroom walls were always covered with sports posters like Alex Gordon, Brett Favre. Our floor was covered with Legos. Our mom made a rule in which there had to be a path from the door to our bed in which we could walk without stepping on Legos. But growing up, we were always very similar, but also different. We both enjoyed computer games like playing backyard football, backyard baseball, Lego racers, like as you will as guys. We had a rule in the family where we could only have 1 hour of computer time per day, but we discovered that if we played together, we could join our 1 hour together and play 2 hours. And so I don't think our parents intended this rule to be like a collaborative experience for us, but it was probably a pleasant side effect for them to see Scott and I really hanging out and just like playing way too much computer games. We all both enjoy like reading newspaper comics. Growing up, our bedroom had a shelf of like various books. I was more of a Calvin and Hobbes guy. Scott enjoyed Garfield and Girls Before Swine. We played a lot of sports growing up. I focused on basketball in high school, and Scott diverged and focused on baseball. Scott and I both had summer internships in our college experiences outside the state of Nebraska. I went to Seattle, Scott went to Chicago. And we also spent time outside the US as part of like summer courses where I went to Italy, Scott went to Australia. So similar, but different. Scott had the pleasure, as Andrew mentioned earlier today, of moving up to the big city of Omaha at the great time of May 2020. Nearly everything was lockdown restricted, as you will remember. We were back to once again living together, but in our own rooms this time. It was a big step. I was heavily involved with the Providence Young Adult community, which are many of the individuals here. And one of my main goals was to get Scott also connected with this group of incredible, God-loving individuals as he transitioned from life in Lincoln to life in Omaha. Little did I know that getting Scott connected with that city group also meant him getting his future wife, Sarah, who was a co-leader with me at that time. And so many of the people up here in the wedding party, or those serving back behind the scenes, are all the people from this young adult community that Scott's been so ingrained into. So I think I've accomplished my goal. As the older brother, my goal was to set the bar as high as possible for Scott to follow, and just kind of deal with the consequences. So this included academics, sports, accolades, like you name it, like whatever it was. I'm gonna set that bar high and try to be a positive example for Scott. But I've also had opportunities to learn from Scott too. First, he's courageous. About 2 years ago, we took a trip to the southwestern United States to visit some national parks. I was out there a couple days earlier and picked Scott up from Vegas, and one of our first mornings we spent hiking Angel's Landing in Zion National Park. You can look up a photo if you want, but more or less, this hike is weaving back and forth up to the top of a plateau. In which once you're at the top, there's a narrow spine that kind of just juts out into the valley. You kind of hike up this trail that goes in the middle of the spine, and there's a chain along the middle where you hold onto the chain while there's like kind of cliffs on each side, and things kind of get steeper and narrower as you go along. Fun fact, you now actually need a permit if you're going to hike that trail, just because it has so much like excess traffic. As you can see, as you can probably guess, you can't have a lot of people holding onto a chain and going like multiple directions. And we've been climbing this spine for a while, kind of going up and down, like pumping your gear to the end, and you kind of climb up a couple more rocks, and you see like how it keeps going. Occasionally pinning ourselves to the side of the cliff as people pass the opposite direction and need to access the chain. Every time I thought coming to the end, we'd climb around, see more rocks, realize there's more of a trail to go. I started thinking, I think I made my point here. Like, the scene is incredible, beautiful. I'm at the top of this incredible piece of nature. The cliff sides are getting a little too close. We don't have any hiking experience. We live in very flat Nebraska, so maybe we're not quite equipped for this and ready to go. But Scott was in front of me, and he just kept going. and I honestly couldn't stop the fusion keep going. So eventually we reached the end. Appreciate the view, get some photos, but I don't think I would have made it all the way to the end there if Scott wasn't out there in front leading the way. Second, Scott is sacrificial and servant-hearted. I called our grandfather Thursday to ask if he had any advice for my speech. I was still working on the speech up until like 30 minutes ago. And I asked if he had any advice, but he mentioned how well both Scott and Sarah serve selflessly others. Many people in this room, on this table, can attest to the time and energy Scott's provided to help serve, tear down team, mowing Sam's yard the last couple of years, clearing up snow after big storms, all the small needs of the day. He just kind of sees the need, feels the need, and always just chips in. So it's always been a joy serving with Scott, since he doesn't complain or grumble, he doesn't drag his feet, he has fun doing it. Third, Scott is resilient, persistent, and determined. I'm 2 years older than Scott, so I was always a little taller, a little stronger, until we evened up at the end of high school. And so this meant I had 16 years of kind of just pushing him around. Like while we played football, I could kind of run him through him a little more. We're playing basketball, I put more inches on him, rebound over him. But despite the slight disadvantage he had for most of his life, he always kept pushing and always kept fighting back. Eventually that size discrepancy disappeared, and we're on level terms now. In college, I taught Scott how to ski the same way my friends taught me how to ski, which was strapping on our skis, taking the ski lift to the top of Mount Colorado, and having one way down. So it's like cold baptism by fire. But through all the tumbles and falls that came up that first day, Scott kept getting up, just kept trying, and we've gone on 2 or 3 ski trips nearly every year since then. And he's even convinced Sarah to go on the past 3 somehow, despite her having concerns from several people who may or may not be at this table, getting significant knee injuries in the past. So if that's not a sign of trust, I don't know what it is. Finally, it's been a joy to see Scott and Sarah walk with God individually and together. They pursue godly living, they seeking to glorify God in word and deed, while resting in the finished work of Jesus. I had the opportunity to know both these individuals before they met each other. Sarah is a compassionate leader who loves prayer, spending years leading city groups, province's prayer team, discipling friends, colleagues, strangers. It's been a pleasure to see Scott also grow in his leadership, leading huddles, leading city groups, with other individuals at this table. Scott and Sarah are always humble leaders, always ready and willing to talk about what they've been learning, what God has put on their heart, and what God has done in their lives. Their faith is their foundation in their relationship. And I'm excited to see what their ministry will bring now that they're together. They're always willing to talk about their Christian faith. If you reach out to them, just probably wait like 2 weeks. In conclusion, it's been an honor to see Scott grow and mature over the years. As I scrolled through a lot of photos of just us growing up in these last couple of years, I noticed that many photos are just us standing or walking next to each other. Most of these times, we weren't really talking much, but we were just kind of like in each other's presence, standing side by side. So we never really felt the need, to say much. I think after all the years we've been together, we just kind of we're always on the same page without needing to say much. Whether this is in Lincoln or Omaha, Colorado mountains, or Italian coastlines, softball fields, or church services, many photos were just us standing next to each other. And Scott is now blessed to have a new partner to stand next to in all his future photos. So raise your glass of coffee or water, and cheer to Scott and Sarah.